Officials, current and former, as to how Ukraine has been handled by the Trump administration. Michelle?
All right, Dan, thank you so much. Our senior Washington correspondent, Dan Raviv. Joining us to discuss is Kenneth Vecchio. He's a former judge and prosecutor, and Elliot Feelig, also a former prosecutor, currently a lawyer with Elliot Feelig and Associates. Good to have you both with us. All right, Elliot, how significant is it, if it is in fact accurate, that this has now become a criminal investigation? What does that mean?
It's extremely significant. It means, prosecutors have a variety of tools at their disposal to gather evidence. And when you switch from an administrative inquiry to a criminal prosecution, far more tools become available to you. You can convene a grand jury. The grand jury can issue subpoenas to gather evidence. They can issue subpoenas to hear from witnesses. And, of course, ultimately, they can indict people. So it means that we've switched into a whole new realm where Durham has far more tools at his disposal to gather information, maybe to indict people.
Well, Elliot, wouldn't he have made that move based on something that would indicate to him that this is the direction to go? And, I mean, what would typically create this shift?
It wouldn't be a stretch to infer that he feels that there is evidence that might lead to an indictment, but it doesn't automatically mean that. It could simply mean that he's run into some kind of obstacle in the gathering of evidence and simply needs a grand jury to issue subpoenas to gather evidence. But, yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if ultimately somewhere in the pipeline there's an indictment.
All right. And, Ken, of course, Democrats are saying that this is retribution, that the president is abusing his power, that he's using the attorney general to be his own personal dog on this one. What's your read?
There's no abuse of power here. This is something that's been going on across the country more and more at every level of law enforcement, where one law enforcement agency is investigating members of other law enforcement agencies for legitimate crimes that they have committed in conducting illegal investigations and falsely charging people. Now, there's a crime called official misconduct, where if a law enforcement officer, for the purpose of injuring another or benefiting himself, commits an unauthorized act related to his office, that is a crime. And there's no such thing as the fallacy of prosecutorial immunity. If you commit a crime in furthering a prosecution, you're guilty. For example, spying on somebody when you have no probable cause to believe that they've committed a crime, getting FISA warrants without probable cause. Worse out of all of it, though, are the false and illegal arrests and prosecutions. And I should note that most of the time, the investigating law enforcement agencies that are looking into the other ones, they'll let it go. If it doesn't rise to a certain level of a legal investigation or a false charge, they'll let it go because of the slippery slope. But more and more, they're prosecuting people for it.
All right, Elliot, you can see why Democrats would go that route, saying that this is political retribution, because it would benefit the president. But to Ken's point, just because something would potentially politically benefit the president doesn't mean that government agencies should shirk their responsibilities.
Absolutely. Just because an indictment may help someone politically or hurt someone politically, it's wrong to infer that it's politically motivated or politically inspired or baseless. Let's see if he indicts anyone. Let's see what the charges are. Let's see what the evidence is underlying it before we criticize it. When I hear these politicians attacking this move before he's done anything, it reminds me of someone criticizing a movie without seeing the movie or even before the movie's been made. Let's see what he does.
And you would like to think that if there was something untoward, illegal, unkosher, that Democrats and Republicans, that the country at large would want to get to the bottom of it. Elliot, while this has been going on, some interesting developments from the legal team of Michael Flynn. What happened there?
So Michael Flynn's current attorney, Sidney Powell, brought a motion. She has grounds to believe that a form that was filled out regarding an interview of Flynn, which ultimately led to him being indicted and pleading guilty to giving false information, may not have accurately represented what happened within the interview. Now, it's incredibly challenging to get back a guilty plea, and he did plead guilty, but she's clearly laying the groundwork to get at those files to potentially, it seems it's in the pipeline, that he's going to try to move to withdraw his plea.
This just supports turning this into a criminal investigation, doesn't it?
You know, what we're talking about here, Elliot, is espousing is post-conviction relief. It's perfectly legitimate. And I will tell you this. I hear mostly me and Alan Dershowitz as the only ones really saying this hard, is stop using criminal law for political vendettas. Stop prosecuting people and seeking investigations based on just politics. And that goes on both sides of the coin. That said,
are Republicans doing just that?
No. In this particular case, there is legitimate evidence that there were illegal investigations, illegally obtained warrants, and potentially even false and wrongful prosecutions. So I think it's got to stop, though, because it's damaging to both sides, and I care about justice more than anything.
What do you mean has got to stop?
Using criminal law as an effort to oust the political opponent. It's very dangerous. It's very, very dangerous. So, for example, I don't think that Joe Biden should be prosecuted for anything. I do think it was legitimate for Donald Trump to ask for him to be investigated, and one can't argue, just because I might be running against you for office, you can't have me investigated. But I don't see evidence that he committed a crime. There might be something I don't know.
Elliot, who is probably, and I know I'm asking you to speculate based on not having the facts, but who's probably in the most danger right now?
So who probably, had the greatest pain in their stomach when this news came out?
Let's go with that.
I would say Strzok. I would say Page, and I would say actually John Brennan should be a little concerned because he, there have been, you call them conspiracy theories. Until they're investigated, we don't know if they're conspiracy theories, and there are many theories surrounding his involvement in the initiation of the Russia investigation.
All right. As the president liked to say, we'll see what happens. Thank you so much, Ken and Elliot. Appreciate it. All right. Let's check how the markets did today. That, of course, is the NASDAQ building